Your phone is stealing your life, and you know it. Every scroll rewires your brain for distraction. Every notification trains you to seek external validation. Every hour spent consuming content is an hour not spent building who you actually want to become. We've gotten pathetically soft in mind, body, and spirit. We shuffle through existence like zombies, accepting mediocrity as normal, all the while despising ourselves because we can't overcome this chemical addiction. We were not made to spend every waking moment in front of screens, being spoon-fed opinions of others while numbing ourselves to the brutal reality of life. We were made to take life by the horns and slay every dragon that dared block our path, while honing our minds and bodies to be sharp as Damascus steel. Today, we're diving deep into how you can reclaim your true self from these digital parasites. The cure is not another mindfulness app. It's ancient wisdom meeting modern rebellion. I'll be pulling from ancient warriors, philosophers, and modern insights for principles that can help you live a more fulfilling life. Each figure's philosophies and principles will be detailed extensively, with tips for modern application included. A 12-week challenge is presented at the end of the video, designed to help you transition away from digital dependency entirely and improve your life in totality. The figures presented here understood that real transformation requires both mental discipline and physical power. These are not merely feel-good platitudes. This is human wisdom forged in blood, sweat, and centuries of struggle. The famous quote on transformation by French surgeon, biologist, and writer Alexis Carrel states, "Man cannot remake himself without suffering, for he is both the marble and the sculptor." This captures the true essence of change. You are simultaneously the raw material and the artist shaping your own destiny. Oftentimes, there is no gentle path to greatness, only the hammer and chisel of disciplined suffering. Just a quick disclaimer before getting started as well. I do not claim to be an expert and have not read nearly enough books or experienced nearly enough life to claim mastery in any of these subjects, at least for now. I merely want to convey an important message that I think people need to hear right now. Listen with a critical mind, question everything, research further from the source, and don't let me or anyone tell you how to think. Timestamps are included in the description, so feel free to jump around or skip over a section that doesn't resonate with you. The video is long, but I believe it needed to be made. Alright, without further ado, let's get into it. The digital parasite problem. Here's how these algorithms trap you. Your brain evolved over millions of years to seek novelty, social connection, and immediate rewards because these behaviors helped our ancestors to survive. Social media platforms have weaponized these ancient impulses against you. The algorithm studies your behavior with military precision. It knows when you're most vulnerable, what triggers the strongest emotional responses, and how to keep you scrolling for hours without realizing it. You're being targeted by billion-dollar companies employing some of the smartest people on Earth to capture your attention. So, does this routine sound familiar? Wake up to a jarring alarm. First action, check your phone. Instagram stories, TikTok, Twitter drama, injecting digital chaos directly into your nervous system before you even process being awake. Then you drag yourself to work or school, spending 8 hours staring at screens, processing more information. During breaks, you don't even rest. You scroll more, feeding the addiction. Then you get home mentally exhausted, too depleted for anything meaningful. You collapse on the couch, order processed food, binge Netflix, while simultaneously scrolling, dual screening your way into complete numbness. As the night deepens, instead of winding down naturally, you keep scrolling. Blue light destroys your circadian rhythms. Your overstimulated brain can't process the day or prepare for tomorrow. You fall asleep with your phone next to your head, and the cycle begins yet again. Your brain is getting measurably dumber by the day. Constant task switching and information overload shrink the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for focus, decision-making, and impulse control. Dr. Adam Gazzaley's research shows notification interruptions reduce cognitive performance by 40%. Your attention span, once capable of sustained focus for hours, now fractures at the first sight of boredom. Your body is systemically weakening as well. Sedentary lifestyles, screen posture, disrupted sleep, and stress eating are creating a generation physically weaker than their grandparents at the same age. Your spirit, that fire inside that once dreamed of great things, is being slowly extinguished. You feel like nobody because you're living like nobody, consuming everyone else's life instead of creating your own. Addiction is the opposite of adaptation. When you're addicted, you're not growing. You're stuck in a loop, repeating behaviors that provide temporary relief but promote long-term suffering. Struggle forges legends. Before actually diving into the ancient wisdom of real historical figures, let's start with something less factual but hopefully more relatable. Fictional characters who embody the principles we're about to explore. Guts, the philosophy of endless struggle. Starting strong with Guts, from the late Kentaro Miura's Berserk. Guts is not just a character, he's a symbol of what the human spirit can endure and overcome. Born literally from his mother's corpse, raised by mercenaries who showed him no love, sexually abused as a child, and forced to kill from an early age, if anyone had an excuse to give up or become a nihilistic killing machine, it would be Guts. But he doesn't do that, and instead simply never stops swinging his sword despite the never-ending beatdowns from life. The brand of sacrifice on his neck isn't just a cool tattoo design that's become popular with our generation. I even got it tattooed a few years ago on my arm, lol. It's a mark that attracts demons to try to kill him every single night. Imagine never being able to sleep peacefully knowing that supernatural forces are constantly hunting you. Most people would break within a week, but Guts has been living this reality for years, forcing him to grow stronger each and every day. The Eclipse, betrayal as transformation. When Griffith, the man he trusted most, the leader he followed, the person who represented everything Guts wanted to become, betrays him in the most horrific way possible during the eclipse, sacrificing all of their comrades to demons and destroying the woman Guts loves. What does Guts do? He doesn't curl up in a corner and accept that this is just the way things are. He doesn't blame the universe for being so unkind to him. He doesn't write angry posts on social media, eager to receive sympathy. No. He picks up the Dragon Slayer, a sword so massive it's described as more like a heap of raw iron, and begins a campaign of vengeance that spans years. Every swing of that sword is powered by his refusal to accept defeat. Every night he survives against demons is a testament to his will to keep existing, keep fighting, keep pushing forward. The lesson isn't that you should seek out trauma or glorify suffering. The lesson is that when life deals you an impossible hand, and it will, your response determines who you become. Guts shows us what the human spirit, when refined by struggle, becomes harder than any steel. The Berserker armor, power through pain. The Berserker armor that Guts eventually wears is a perfect metaphor for what happens when you fully commit to the struggle. The armor removes the body's natural limiters, pain, fear, exhaustion, allowing the wearer to fight beyond human limits. But it comes at a cost. It will literally consume you if you're not strong enough to control it. This is the reality of real transformation. When you decide to break free from digital addiction, to build your body, to discipline your mind, you're putting on your own version of the Berserker armor. You're removing the comfortable limitations that keep you safe but weak. The process may hurt, it will push you beyond what you think you can handle and what you thought was previously possible, but that's exactly what makes it powerful. Modern application. What's your Dragon Slayer? What's your Griffith? What betrayal, trauma, or setback has left you feeling powerless? Instead of letting it define you as a victim, use it as fuel. Every rep in the gym, every page you read, every moment you choose discipline over comfort. That's you swinging your sword at the demons fighting to keep you weak. So pick up your Dragon Slayer. That might be a barbell, a difficult book, or the simple act of turning off your phone. The weapon doesn't matter. What matters is that you keep swinging it every single day, regardless of how you feel. Rock Lee, the philosophy of hard work. Next up, we have Rock Lee from Naruto. In a world where everyone has supernatural ninja abilities, Rock Lee can't use ninjutsu or genjutsu. He's the kid born with sucky genetics for bodybuilding, metaphorical wide waists with narrow clavicles, long femurs, and short bicep insertions. By every conventional measure, he's disadvantaged. But Rock Lee becomes one of the most formidable fighters in the entire series and one of the most beloved characters among all anime fans through one thing alone. Absolutely relentless training and a passion that sees him through any obstacle. Lee's training regimen is insane by any standard. Push-ups, sit-ups, squats, practicing kicks until his feet bled every single day. When he can't complete one exercise, he does extra of another. His philosophy is brutally simple. If you can't do something, you train until you can. The weight training philosophy. Lee wears incredibly heavy weights on his ankles and wrists constantly, not just during training, but all the time. This isn't just physical conditioning, it's mental conditioning. Every step he takes, every movement he makes, is harder than it would be for someone else. He's constantly training, even when he's not. When Lee drops his training weights in the fight against Gaara, the impact creates craters in the ground. He's been carrying the equivalent of small boulders on his limbs for years. This is the power of making everything in your life slightly harder than it needs to be. When you finally remove those limitations, you've developed capabilities you never knew you had. The Gaara fight. effort versus genius. The fight against Gara is where Lee's philosophy gets put to the ultimate test. Gara has absolute defense, sand automatically protecting him without conscious thought. He's never been hurt in a battle. He's a literal monster with a demon sealed inside him. By all logic, Lee should be crushed instantly, but when Lee drops his training weights and moves at speeds that even experienced ninja can't follow, something magical happens. Pure effort and will create their own form of power. He doesn't win the fight, but he proves that someone with no natural advantages can push a genius to their absolute limit through training alone. The most powerful moment comes when Lee's unconscious body continues to stand and fight. His will to never give up has become so strong that it transcends his own conscious thought. This is what happens when you train so consistently that discipline becomes your default state. Springtime of youth, the mindset of eternal growth. Lee's springtime of youth philosophy isn't just being optimistic, it's about viewing every day as an opportunity to become stronger. Spring is the season of growth, renewal, and unlimited potential. Lee approaches every training session, every challenge, every setback as if he's in the springtime of his development. This mindset is crucial for breaking digital addiction. Instead of seeing your current weakness as permanent, see it as the starting point of your growth. Every day you choose discipline over distraction is a day you're moving further into your own springtime of youth. Modern application, the Rock Lee method. The modern equivalent isn't about becoming a ninja. It's about becoming the person in your gym who shows up every single day, who cracks a book when everyone else is scrolling, who chooses the hard path when the easy path is always available. When you feel like giving up because you don't have natural advantages, ask yourself, what would happen if a genius worked as hard as I do? For all you know, you could be a genius. Start with Lee's basic principles: consistency over intensity, effort over talent, and never making excuses. If you can't do push-ups, do wall push-ups. If you can't read for an hour, read for 10 minutes. If you can't delete all social media, just delete one app. The specific action doesn't matter. What matters is that you do something to improve yourself every single day. Zuko, the power of choosing your own path. The psychology of transformation. Zuko's transformation is one of the most psychologically realistic character developments in any fictional work out there. He starts as everything we hate, an entitled, angry brat desperate for approval from a toxic father figure. He is completely defined by external validation. His entire identity is built around being the Fire Nation prince, the chosen son, the one who will restore his family's honor. He's never developed an internal sense of self-worth. When his father burns half his face and exiles him, Zuko's entire world collapses. Everything he thought he was disappears. The wilderness years, destruction before reconstruction. Zuko's journey through the Earth Kingdom as a refugee is crucial to his development. Stripped of his royal status, living in poverty, having to work for food, he's forced to confront who he actually is when all external supports are removed. The episode where he and Iroh work in the tea shop in Ba Sing Se is a masterclass in ego death. Zuko, who once commanded armies, is now serving tea to customers who don't know or care about his royal bloodline. This isn't just humiliation, it's the necessary destruction of his false self. The internal civil war. Zuko's internal struggle isn't just about choosing good over evil, it's about choosing your own desires over your conditioning. He's been programmed since birth to believe that his worth comes from his father's approval, that strength means domination, that the Fire Nation's way is the only way. Breaking free from his conditioning requires him to become a different person at his core. The moment when he stands up to his father during an episode with the backdrop of a solar eclipse, no less. Why does everything fateful happen during eclipses? And drops the amazing line, after I leave here today, I'm going to free Uncle Iroh from his prison and I'm going to beg for his forgiveness. He's the one who's been a real father to me. And then goes on to put his father in his place and tell him that he will not be controlled anymore is not just character development. It's a masterclass in psychological liberation. Learning from the dragons, rediscovering authentic power. Zuko's journey to learn from dragons is symbolic of rediscovering your authentic relationship with power. He learned to generate fire through rage and hatred in the past, emotions that his father had cultivated in him. But after breaking free and choosing his own path, he has to learn to create fire through passion and life force. The dragons show him that fire isn't destruction. It's also life, warmth, energy, and creation. Zuko's harnessing of fire demonstrates the difference between toxic power, domination, control, forcing others to submit, and true leadership power, strength, creativity, protection, and inspiration. modern application, breaking free from digital programming. The parallel to your life is obvious. How much of who you are is actually you, and how much is just programming from social media, peer pressure, family expectations, or societal conditioning? Reflect on that. Breaking free requires the same courage Jocko showed, the willingness to disappoint people, to be misunderstood, to stand alone if necessary. Your phone, your social media habits, your comfort zone. These are your Fire Nation. Walking away from them feels like losing your identity because you've confused your true core self with your programmed behaviors. Like Jocko, you might have to go through a period of feeling lost, confused, and stripped of your old identity. This is normal and completely necessary. The dragon you need to learn from is your own self, the person you were before you got programmed by algorithms and social expectations. Deep down, you know what you need to do. In the words of Uncle Iroh, who we will get to later, it's time for you to look inward and begin asking yourself the big questions. Who are you? And what do you want? These fictional heroes show us what's possible when we embrace struggle and discipline. But stories alone won't save you from your phone addiction. You need battle-tested strategies from real warriors who face their era's versions of digital distraction, social pressure, instant gratification, and the constant pull away from meaningful work. The ancient world had no smartphones, but it had the same fundamental human weaknesses. The desire for comfort over growth, external validation over inner strength, and easy pleasure over difficult virtue. The figures we're about to explore didn't just theorize about these problems. They lived through them and emerged with frameworks that still work to this day. From the Western philosophies of the Stoics to the warrior mindset of Miyamoto Musashi to the strategies of Eastern leaders, let's dive into the practitioners who tested their principles against the harshest realities life could offer them. Socrates, physical excellence as moral duty. The philosopher warrior. Socrates wasn't just a philosopher sitting around thinking abstract thoughts. He was a warrior who served in 3 military campaigns and was known for his physical endurance and courage in battle. At the Battle of Delium, when the Athenian army was retreating in panic, Socrates walked calmly backwards, his eyes fixed on the enemy, so composed that the pursuing Spartans decided that he was too dangerous to attack. His physical courage and mental discipline were inseparable. His famous declaration, "What a disgrace it is for a man to grow old without ever seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable," is quoted quite frequently today, but it is not just a quote about the importance of exercising. It is really a statement about a moral responsibility that every citizen has. The concept of arete, integrated excellence. The ancient Greeks understood something we've forgotten. Physical weakness is a form of moral failing because it represents unrealized potential. When you let your body deteriorate, you're not just being lazy, you're being wasteful with the most sophisticated biological machine ever created. The Greeks had a word, arete, apologies for any mispronunciations that arise, that we translate as excellence or virtue, but it meant something more integrated than our modern understanding. Arete was about becoming the fullest expression of your human potential in all dimensions, physical, mental, moral, and spiritual. The Olympic Games weren't just athletic competitions. They were religious festivals honoring Zeus through the demonstration of human excellence. Athletes competed naked not for shock value, but to show that they had nothing to hide. Their bodies were temples worthy of the gods' attention. Imagine how that would go over today. The Socratic method applied to physical training. Socrates' famous questioning technique, constantly asking, "How do you know?" and "What do you mean?" can revolutionize, on a small scale, your approach to fitness, and on a large scale, your approach to life. Instead of mindlessly following workout routines, or a specific life path that you were told is right for you, start questioning everything. Why are you training? What does strength mean to you? How do you know if you're making progress? What assumptions about your physical limitations have you never tested? What would happen if you approached your body with the same intellectual rigor you applied to other areas of life? Apply this rigorous curiosity to everything in life, and new worlds will be opened. Now, do not get so caught up or overwhelmed in the details that you become paralyzed by your analysis. Claw for knowledge, but do not fail to put it into practice. Socrates believed that the unexamined life is not worth living, and the unexamined body is not a home worth inhabiting for the soul. Walking dialogues, movement as philosophy. Socrates conducted many of his philosophical discussions while walking through Athens. He understood that physical movement stimulates mental clarity. Modern neuroscience confirms this. Walking increases BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which promotes the growth of new neural connections. I personally am a huge fan of walking and thinking, and usually type out all these scripts while I am walking either outside or on the treadmill. The peripatetic tradition, teaching while walking, was based on the understanding that the body and mind are not separate entities, but aspects of a united system. When you move your body, you change your brain. Try conducting your deepest thinking while walking. No headphones, no distractions. Just you, your thoughts, and the rhythm of movement. You'll be amazed at the insights that emerge when your body and mind are working together instead of fighting each other. Aristotle, the science of human flourishing. The philosopher of practical wisdom. If Socrates asked the questions, Aristotle provided the systemic answers. His approach to human excellence wasn't purely philosophical. It was scientific, based on careful observation of what actually works to create flourishing lives. He studied under Plato, who was a student of Socrates for 20 years, tutored Alexander the Great, and founded his own school, the Lyceum, where he developed his comprehensive philosophy of human nature. Eudaimonia, flourishing versus happiness. Aristotle distinguished between hedonia, pleasure, and eudaimonia, flourishing. Hedonia is what you get from scrolling social media, eating junk food, or binge-watching Netflix. Temporary pleasure that leaves you feeling emptier than before. Eudaimonia is what you get from developing your capabilities, achieving difficult goals, and living according to your highest values. Modern culture sells you the former, disguised as the latter. Quotes like, "Follow your bliss" sound deep, but if your bliss is digital consumption and sensory pleasure, you're pursuing a never-ending path that only leads to pain. Aristotle would tell you to follow your excellence instead. Eudaimonia isn't a feeling, it's a way of being. It's what happens when you develop your human capacities to their fullest extent and use them in service of something greater than yourself. You can't achieve this by accident. It requires conscious choice and disciplined action over time. Hylomorphism, the revolutionary mind-body unity. This is where Aristotle's philosophy becomes radical even by today's standards. He rejected the mind-body dualism that would later dominate Western thought. For Aristotle, the soul is not separate from the body, it's the form of the body, the organizing principle that gives it life and direction. Think of it this way. Your rational soul, your capacity for reason, virtue, and choice, requires a healthy body to function optimally. When your body is weak, sick, or poorly maintained, your highest human capacities are diminished. This is an observable fact that we don't put much stock into. The 3 types of soul. Aristotle identified 3 levels of the soul: nutritive, growth and reproduction like plants; sensitive, perception and movement like animals; and rational, reasoning and choice, uniquely human. Humans have all 3, but our rational soul is what makes us distinctly human. Here's the crucial insight. All 3 levels must be functioning well for optimal human performance. If your nutritive functions are disrupted, i.e. poor diet, lack of sleep, no physical activity, your sensitive functions become impaired, poor coordination, emotional instability, which then damages your rational functions, poor decision-making, weak willpower, clouded thinking. This is why you can't think your way out of problems created by poor physical habits. Your rational soul depends on the foundation provided by your lower functions. When you're sleep-deprived, malnourished, or sedentary, your capacity for reason, willpower, and moral choice is quite literally compromised. The Lyceum method, learning through movement. Aristotle taught while walking around the grounds of his school, the Lyceum. His students were called peripatetics, wanderers, because they learned while moving, like discussed earlier. This wasn't just a teaching style, it was based on his understanding that physical movement enhances mental function, akin to Socrates' teachings. Modern research confirms what Aristotle observed. Moderate physical activity increases cognitive performance, creativity, and memory consolidation. The Greeks weren't just being poetic when they said sound mind and sound body. They were describing a biological reality. The stereotype of the sedentary intellectual was foreign to Greek thought. True thinkers were physical beings who understood that the body serves the mind. Practical application. Structure your learning around movement. Read while walking slowly. Take breaks from intense mental work to do physical exercise. Design your environment so that learning and movement are integrated, not separated. Your desk job and sedentary lifestyle aren't just bad for your body, they're actually making you dumber. Aristotle's systemic approach to human excellence laid the groundwork for what would become the most practical philosophy in history, but it took the harsh realities of Roman politics and warfare to forge these insights into an unbreakable mental framework. Enter the Stoics. Epictetus, freedom through discipline. A slave who became free. Epictetus understood slavery, literally and metaphysically. Born a slave and physically disabled, he eventually gained freedom and became one of history's most influential philosophers. His insights about freedom and bondage come from lived experience, not abstract theory. Freedom is acquired by discipline. This sounds paradoxical to modern ears that equate freedom with doing whatever you want, but Epictetus understood that the person who can't control their impulses is a slave to those impulses. A person addicted to their phone isn't free, they're in digital bondage. True freedom comes from disciplined choice. When you can choose discomfort over comfort, delayed gratification over immediate pleasure, you become free from the tyranny of impulse. It's about becoming someone whose actions align with their values instead of their conditioning. The dichotomy of control. Similar to Marcus Aurelius, who we will get to next, Epictetus divided everything into two categories: what's up to you and what's not up to you. Up to you, your choices, responses, values, effort. Not up to you, other people's actions, outcomes, circumstances, the past, and the future. Most people spend 90% of their mental energy on things that are not up to them. Worrying about what others think, trying to control outcomes, resenting circumstances they can't change. This creates constant frustration and learned helplessness. Physical training as freedom practice. Train your body to endure hardship, for it supports the mind's freedom. Epictetus practiced voluntary discomfort, sleeping on hard surfaces, wearing simple clothes, eating plain food, not for masochism, but to prove to himself that external conditions couldn't determine his internal state. Your version might be cold showers, fasting, difficult workouts, or removing convenience from your life. The point is not suffering. It's building confidence that you can handle discomfort without losing your center. Epictetus taught that freedom comes through discipline, but his students' teachings would be tested at the highest levels of power. A century later, Marcus Aurelius, ruling the Roman Empire at its peak in the 2nd century AD, would prove that Stoic principles work, whether you're in chains or commanding legions. Marcus Aurelius, philosophy tested by reality. The philosopher emperor. Aurelius wasn't a philosopher writing in comfortable isolation, as is the common theme here. He was the most powerful man in the world, dealing with plagues, wars, political crises, and personal tragedies while trying to live according to Stoic principles. His meditations weren't written for publication. They were private notes to himself about how to maintain virtue under extreme pressure. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. One of Stoicism's core principles. It's about recognizing where your actual power lies. You can't control whether social media algorithms try to addict you, but you can control whether you engage with them. You can't control whether junk food is everywhere, but you can control what you put in your mouth. Aurelius faced plagues and barbarian invasions, but he spent mental energy only on what he could influence. His responses, his choices, his character development. Your problems, phone addiction, poor fitness, scattered attention, are totally within your control if you stop wasting energy on what is not. Physical training as imperial duty. Despite running an empire, Aurelius maintained a disciplined physical regimen. He also took cold baths, drilled with soldiers instead of merely commanding them, and ate simple foods to maintain resilience. He understood that physical discipline creates mental discipline. Book 6 of Meditations. The body should be trained to serve reason. Your body is not separate from your character. It's the vehicle through which your character expresses itself. A weak, undisciplined body will express weak, undisciplined character. A strong, disciplined body supports strong, disciplined choices. Morning and evening reflections. Aurelius started each day by mentally preparing for difficulties and ended each day by reviewing his actions and thoughts. This wasn't neurotic self-criticism. It was systemic character development. Morning. Today I will deal with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness. Not because he was pessimistic, but because preparation prevents reactive behavior. Evening. What did I do well today? How could I improve? What did I learn about myself and others? This systemic self-examination builds self-awareness and prevents the same mistakes from repeating themselves. Apply this to your digital detox. Morning intention setting and evening review create conscious choice instead of autopilot behavior. How do you plan to better yourself today? And did you spend the day habitually going through the motions, or did you follow through on that one specific goal? Seneca, wisdom through adversity. The Stoic who lived in the arena. While Aurelius ruled and Epictetus taught, another Stoic was proving these principles in the dangerous waters of Roman wealth and politics. Seneca, advisor to Emperor Nero in 1st century Rome, showed that you could engage fully with power and prosperity while maintaining your philosophical soul. His Stoic philosophy was forged in the crucible of real-world pressure, political intrigue, and personal loss, like the other Stoics we've seen thus far. Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks the truth turns over from the new to the eternal. Seneca lived in an era of unprecedented wealth, technological advancement, and social change, much like today. He recognized that constantly chasing novelty and stimulation creates a scattered, anxious mind that can never find satisfaction. True wealth comes from appreciating what you already have. True knowledge comes from deepening your understanding, rather than accumulating extra useless information for the sake of it. This philosophy directly addresses modern problems: the addiction to the news cycles, social media, consumer culture, and the constant search for the next achievement or acquisition. Seneca practiced gratitude, simplicity, and focused attention as antidotes to the disease of perpetual wanting. Practical philosophy for difficult times. Unlike philosophers who retreat from the world, Seneca engaged fully with wealth, power, and responsibility while maintaining his philosophical principles. He understood that wisdom must be practical. It must help you make better decisions under pressure, maintain your integrity when tempted, and find meaning when circumstances turn against you. His letters and essays are filled with concrete advice: how to deal with difficult people, how to handle loss and setbacks, how to maintain perspective during success, how to prepare mentally for challenges. Seneca treated philosophy as mental training for life's inevitable difficulties, not as academic exercise or spiritual escape. The Stoic response to digital addiction. Each master would approach modern digital challenges with their characteristic wisdom. Socrates would question why you believe you need constant stimulation. Aristotle would show you how digital habits prevent human flourishing. Epictetus would remind you that your phone has no power over your mind. Marcus Aurelius would prepare mentally for digital temptations each morning. Seneca would engage with technology as a tool while remaining unattached to its pleasures. Building your Stoic practice. Start with one principle from each master. Choose the wisdom that resonates most deeply with your current challenges. Remember, these weren't just theories to these men, they were lived experiences, tested against the harshest realities of their time. The path of the Stoic is not about suppressing emotion or avoiding pleasure. It's about developing the strength to choose your responses consciously, rather than being controlled by impulse. In a world designed to make you reactive, becoming proactive is the ultimate rebellion. These Western philosophers and warriors gave us frameworks for individual excellence forged in the competitive, achievement-oriented culture of Greece and Rome. But on the other side of the world, ancient civilizations were discovering complementary truths about the power of yielding, the wisdom of simplicity, and the strength found in harmony after the conquest. From the Mediterranean to the East, wisdom traditions were evolving along parallel paths. Miyamoto Musashi, the way of the sword becomes the way of life. The life of Japan's greatest swordsman. Moving forward in time to 17th century Japan, we encounter a warrior who synthesized Eastern and Western approaches to excellence. Miyamoto Musashi transformed from history's greatest swordsman into a philosopher of strategy whose insights transcend combat. Musashi wasn't just a fighter, he was a philosopher of conflict who understood that every battle, whether with swords or with your own weaknesses, follows the same principles. His record speaks for itself. Over 60 duels never defeated, including victories against entire schools of martial artists. He founded his own school, the Nitin Ryu, which means two-sword school, because he fought with both a katana and a wakizashi simultaneously. But Musashi's real genius wasn't his swordsmanship. It was his understanding that the principles of combat applied to every aspect of life. The Book of Five Rings isn't just about sword fighting, it's about strategy, psychology, and the cultivation of an unshakable mind. The Decado, 21 Precepts for an Uncompromising Life. Near the end of his life, Musashi wrote the Decado, 21 precepts that summarize his philosophy. He creates simple phrases that encompass the whole of how he thinks people should live their lives. Precept 1. Accept everything just the way it is. This is not passive resignation. It's strategic clarity. When Musashi fought Sasaki Kojiro, also known as the demon of the western provinces, he didn't waste energy being angry about Kojiro's 3-foot-long sword advantage. He accepted the reality, carved his own wooden sword from an ore to match the length, and used superior strategy to win the duel. Applied to your own life. Stop wasting emotional energy fighting reality. You're addicted to your phone? Accept it. Your body is weak? Accept it. Your mind is scattered? Accept it. Not because these things are okay, but because acceptance is the first step toward effective action. You can't solve the problems you won't acknowledge. Precept 4. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. Musashi understood that self-obsession is the enemy of awareness. When you're constantly worried about how you look, how you sound, whether or not people like you, you become blind to opportunities and threats around you. In sword fighting, this self-consciousness gets you killed. In modern life, it keeps you trapped in reactive patterns instead of proactive growth. Stop monitoring yourself constantly through the lens of social media and start paying attention to what's actually happening in the world around you. Precept 13. Never pursue the pleasure of good food. This isn't about various eating disorders. It's about not being controlled by sensory pleasure. Musashi understood that when comfort becomes your master, you become soft. In his era, this meant eating simple rice and vegetables. In your era, it means not letting food become entertainment. Look at the current food landscape. You're surrounded by hyperpalatable processed foods designed to trigger addiction responses. Every corner has fast food optimized by scientists to override your satiety signals. Eating for pleasure instead of nutrition is like training with a wooden sword when your enemies have steel. The Kojiro duel, strategy over strength. Back to the famous duel between Musashi and Sasaki because it is a masterclass in psychological warfare. Musashi didn't just show up and rely on skill. He arrived 3 hours late, knowing it would enrage Kojiro and make him fight emotionally instead of strategically. He carved his wooden sword from an oar during the boat ride to match Kojiro's sword length. He positioned the sun behind him to create glare. He won before the first strike was thrown. Your battles with digital addiction require the same strategic thinking. Don't rely on willpower alone. Change your environment. Delete apps. Leave your phone in another room. Create friction between you and your addictive behaviors. Fight smarter, not just harder. The way of walking alone. Musashi spent his final years as a hermit, living in caves, practicing his art in complete solitude. He wasn't antisocial. It was about developing the capacity to be alone with yourself without needing external validation or stimulation. In a world of constant connection, the ability to be genuinely alone is a superpower. Most people can't sit in silence for 5 minutes without reaching for their phone. Musashi could spend months in solitude refining his understanding of strategy in life. This is the difference between being alone and being lonely. How can you go out of your way to spend some time alone? Sun Tzu, Victory Through Understanding, the general who never lost. If Musashi perfected the individual warrior's path in feudal Japan, his principles echo teachings from much earlier in Chinese history. Nearly 2,000 years during China's tumultuous spring and autumn period, a military strategist named Sun Tzu had developed the ultimate framework for victory through understanding rather than force. Sun Tzu understood that the greatest victories are won before the battle begins. As a military strategist in ancient China, he recognized that conflict, whether in war, business, or personal relationships, is fundamentally about information, positioning, and timing. His insights transcend warfare because life itself is a series of strategic challenges. Know yourself and your enemy. You need to be able to have a clear-eyed assessment of reality. Most people fail because they operate on wishful thinking rather than accurate information. They don't honestly assess their own strengths and weaknesses, and they don't understand the forces they're dealing with. Knowing yourself means understanding your true capabilities, your blind spots, your emotional triggers, and your actual resources. Knowing your enemy means understanding market conditions, other people's motivations, the real constraints you're operating under, and the systems you're trying to navigate. Victory comes from this clarity, not from superior force. The art of strategic thinking. Sun Tzu taught that all warfare is based on deception, not lying, but making your moves unpredictable while reading your opponent's patterns. In modern terms, this translates to strategic thinking, seeing several moves ahead, understanding second and third order consequences, and positioning yourself advantageously before others realize what's happening. This applies whether you're building a career, starting a business, or navigating complex relationships. The person who thinks strategically doesn't react to circumstances, they shape circumstances. They understand that timing, positioning, and preparation matter more than raw effort or talent alone. Lao Tzu, Power Through Yielding, the master who disappeared. While Sun Tzu taught victory through strategic action in 6th century China, another Chinese sage from the same era was discovering the opposite truth. The greatest power often comes through apparent powerlessness. Lao Tzu, the mysterious founder of Taoism, understood that water defeats stone not through force, but through persistence. Lao Tzu, if he existed as a single person, understood something that aggressive cultures often miss: the power of softness, yielding, and natural flow. His philosophy of Taoism teaches that the most effective action often looks like non-action, and the strongest position often appears to be the weakest. Water defeats rock not through force, but through persistence. This captures the essence of Taoist thinking. Water doesn't fight the rock, it flows around it, finds the cracks, and eventually wears it down. Similarly, trying to force outcomes through pure will often creates resistance and backlash. Instead, understanding natural patterns and working with them, rather than against them, creates sustainable results. In practical terms, this might mean building influence through service rather than domination, changing minds through questions rather than arguments, or achieving goals by removing obstacles rather than pushing harder. The person who understands flow doesn't exhaust themselves fighting upstream. They find the current that naturally moves in their direction. Wu Wei, the action of non-action. Wu Wei is the concept of expressing the idea that we should take action that aligns with natural patterns rather than forcing the artificial ones. A skilled martial artist doesn't block every punch with superior force. They redirect the opponent's energy against them. A wise leader doesn't micromanage every decision. They create systems where good decisions emerge naturally. This principle applies to personal development too. Instead of forcing yourself into rigid discipline that creates internal rebellion, you design your environment so that good choices become easier than bad ones. Instead of fighting your nature, you channel it toward productive ends. Confucius, Harmony Through Relationships, the teacher who shaped civilization. Where Lao Tzu emphasized individual harmony with natural patterns, his contemporary, Confucius, also living in 6th century China, focused on the social technologies that create harmony between people. Confucius understood that individual excellence means nothing without social harmony, and social harmony is impossible without individual cultivation. His philosophy centers on the idea that human beings are fundamentally relational creatures. We become who we are through our interactions with others, particularly through the roles we play in community and society. The gentleman understands what is moral, the small man understands what is profitable. This distinction isn't about wealth or success, it's about the foundation of decision-making. The gentleman makes choices based on what strengthens relationships and social fabric, while the small person optimizes for short-term personal gain at the expense of everything else. In modern terms, this translates to understanding that your reputation, relationships, and integrity are more valuable than any immediate advantage you might gain by cutting corners or betraying trust. The person who thinks like a gentleman builds sustainable success because others want to work with them, trust them, and support their endeavors. Ritual as social technology. To Confucius, ritual was not seen as an empty ceremony, but as a social technology that creates predictable framework for human interaction. When everyone understands their role and responsibilities, when there are clear expectations and proper ways of showing respect, social cooperation becomes possible. This applies to everything from family dynamics to business relationships to personal habits. The person who understands the power of consistent, respectful interaction, who shows up reliably, honors commitments, and treats others with appropriate dignity, creates an environment where everyone can thrive. Good relationships require structure, not just good intentions. The death of ritual and digital culture. Confucius understood that without shared rituals and clear social roles, communities collapse into chaos. Look around, we've replaced family dinners with everyone staring at phones. We've traded face-to-face conversations for emoji reactions. We've substituted genuine mentorship with influencer parasocial relationships. The social in social media is a lie. Real social connection requires persistence, vulnerability, and mutual respect, exactly what digital platforms destroy. Confucius would see our isolation epidemic as the natural result of abandoning the social technologies that create genuine community. Modern application: rebuilding social bonds. Start small. 1 device-free meal per day with family or friends. Practice active listening without preparing your response. Show up consistently for people rather than just liking their posts. Confucian wisdom reminds us that character is built through relationships, not follower counts. Eastern wisdom, Uncle Iroh and beyond. The general who found peace. These ancient masters from the East and West established the fundamental principles of human excellence that have guided civilizations for millennia. But perhaps nowhere are their combined wisdoms more beautifully synthesized than in a fictional character who embodies the best of both traditions. Uncle Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender represents the perfect integration of Eastern compassion and Western courage, Taoist flow and Stoic resilience. Avatar is one of my favorite shows of all time, and I couldn't let the opportunity pass to go in depth on the beauty of Uncle Iroh as a character. Iroh represents one of fiction's most compelling portraits of wisdom earned through suffering. Once the Dragon of the West, a feared Fire Nation general who laid siege to Ba Sing Se, he lost everything that defined him: his son, his military career, his purpose, and emerged as something far more powerful. A man who understood that true strength comes from inner peace, not outer conquest. Pride is not the opposite of shame, but its source. This insight cuts to the heart of human psychology. Most people think confidence means never admitting weakness, never showing vulnerability, never being wrong. But this creates a brittle ego that must constantly defend itself, leading to the very shame it's trying to avoid. True confidence comes from accepting our flaws, learning from mistakes, and finding worth in growth rather than perfection. Iroh's transformation from proud general to humble tea shop owner illustrates this principle. He doesn't hide from his past failures, he integrates them into wisdom. He can laugh at himself, admit when he's wrong, and find joy in simple pleasures because his self-worth doesn't depend on maintaining an image. This makes him unshakable in a way that former military strength never could. Transformation in captivity, the prison as crucible. Perhaps nowhere is Iroh's philosophy more powerfully demonstrated than during his imprisonment in the Fire Nation capital. While others might have despaired or plotted revenge, Iroh used his confinement as an opportunity for the ultimate inner work. Day after day, he performed exercises in his cell, not just physical conditioning, but mental and spiritual preparation. He built his body while simultaneously letting go of his attachments to the external world. This period represents the deepest expression of his belief that true power comes from within. Stripped of titles, possessions, and freedom, Iroh found his greatest strength. His prison training wasn't about becoming physically formidable enough to break free. It was about becoming spiritually free enough that external circumstances couldn't imprison his mind. When he finally chose to escape, it wasn't driven by desperation or anger, but by a calm recognition that his purpose lay elsewhere. The discipline he showed in prison, maintaining hope, staying centered, preparing for the future while accepting the present, exemplifies the kind of inner work that most people avoid. Iroh turned his lowest point into his greatest opportunity for growth, proving that suffering can become the foundation of wisdom when approached with the right mindset. The moment of truth. Who are you and what do you want? Back to one of the most crucial conversations between Iroh and Zuko. Iroh tells Zuko, "You have to look inside yourself and start asking the big questions. Who are you and what do you want?" Definitely sounds much better in his voice, but this deceptively simple challenge cuts to the core of human existence. Most people spend their entire lives pursuing goals they've never questioned, following paths laid out by others, and avoiding the fundamental questions that would reveal their authentic desires. For Zuko, this meant confronting the reality that everything he thought he wanted, his father's approval, his position as prince, the glory of capturing the Avatar, were actually someone else's dreams imposed on him. The real questions forced him to examine whether his actions aligned with his true values. When he finally asked himself honestly who he was and what he actually wanted, he discovered that his deepest desire was to help people, not conquer them, and to earn love through kindness rather than fear through strength. This wisdom applies universally. Most people spend their lives trying to fix external circumstances. getting the right job, the right relationship, the right recognition, without addressing the internal conflicts that create their suffering. Iro understood that lasting change must come from within, that you cannot solve internal problems with external solutions. His guidance helped Zuko stop fighting the wrong battles and start doing the real work of self-discovery. The art of gentle influence. Iro never lectures, never forces his wisdom on others, never demands to be taken seriously. Instead, he offers tea, tells stories, plays pai sho, and makes seemingly casual observations that plant seeds in people's minds. He understands that wisdom cannot be imposed, it must be discovered. His influence comes from creating space for others to find their own insights. This approach works because it respects people's autonomy while providing gentle guidance. Iro meets people where they are, playing the fool with soldiers, sharing fears with his nephew, offering comfort to strangers, because he knows that genuine connection precedes meaningful influence. People trust him because he never tries to control them, only to understand and support them. Finding light in darkness. Iro's philosophy isn't naive optimism, it's battle-tested resilience. He has experienced real loss, made terrible mistakes, and faced genuine despair. His ability to find meaning in small moments, to see potential in broken people, and to maintain hope in hopeless situations comes from choosing to focus on what he can influence rather than what he cannot change. Whether he's brewing the perfect cup of tea, helping his nephew find his path, or simply appreciating a sunset, Iro demonstrates that wisdom often means finding profound meaning in ordinary moments. He teaches that you don't need to achieve great things to live greatly. You need to bring great attention and care to everything you're doing. So, to wrap everything up, fictional characters inspired us, historical figures taught us principles, but now comes the crucial question: why do these ancient insights matter more today than ever before? The answer lies in recognizing that every era faces the same fundamental human challenges, just with different delivery systems for temptation, distraction, and easy pleasures. These figures provide tested strategies for maintaining autonomy, purpose, and growth in the face of powerful forces designed to weaken your will. So, to reiterate, here are the key takeaways from the figures talked about here. Take a little bit from each of these legends to become someone greater than you've ever been before. The Warrior's Creed. Embody the legends. Here are 8 general principles to live by after looking at all of these figures and seeing what worked for them and how they became figures worthy of studying hundreds of years later. After this, we'll get to the 12-week challenge that I came up with in order to break the digital addiction and become someone who doesn't need a phone, doesn't need specific foods, doesn't need specific objects. They can just exist happily with themselves and only themselves. Number 1, fight like guts. Embrace the struggle as your forge. Every difficult workout, every moment you choose to read a page or two over scrolling, every time you sit with discomfort instead of reaching for your phone, you're swinging your sword against the forces trying to weaken you. Guts never stop fighting, even when the entire world literally turned demonic on him. Your demons are digital, but the battle is just as serious. 2. Be disciplined like Musashi. Create your own version of the Dakota. Write down at least 5 key principles and live by them, regardless of what's trending. Musashi spent years alone in mountains perfecting his craft. You don't need to spend years alone, but you do need that same solitary discipline to develop skills that matter. Accept what is, work with what you have, and never stray from your path. 3. Think like Socrates and Aristotle. Question everything, especially your own assumptions about what you need to be happy. Socrates said, "The unexamined life isn't worth living." Examine your digital habits with the same rigor. Aristotle taught that excellence is a habit. Make daily choices that align with your highest potential, not your lowest impulses. 4. Flow like Lao Tzu. Don't force change through willpower alone. Like water wearing down stone, let consistent small actions reshape your life. Find natural rhythms instead of fighting against them constantly. Move your body regularly, create space for thoughts to emerge instead of filling every moment with input. 5. Endure like Epictetus. Remember that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Every notification, trending topic, or social media drama is testing whether you'll remain centered or just get pulled into reactive chaos. Choose your response. External events are neutral until you judge them. 6. Strategize like Sun Tzu. Know yourself and know your enemy. Track when and why you reach for your phone. Understand the psychological tactics being used against you. Control the battlefield by changing your environment. Win without fighting by eliminating temptation rather than relying on willpower. 7. Act like Aurelius. Take responsibility for your choices while maintaining inner peace, regardless of external chaos. He ran an empire during plagues and wars while keeping a philosophical journal. You can maintain your principles while navigating college, high school, or life dramas. 8. Seek wisdom like Confucius. Character is built through daily practice of virtues. Small, consistent actions compound into major transformations. Don't compare yourself to others' highlight reels. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. All of these figures understood that mental freedom requires physical discipline, that wisdom requires practice, and that character development is more valuable than external validation. They chose the harder path of self-cultivation over the easier path of social conformity, precisely what we all need help with today. The Warrior's Awakening. Generational battleground. We are currently living through history's greatest psychological warfare campaign, not to mention the chaos that is ensuing in the actual physical world. Never before has a generation faced such sophisticated attacks on attention, willpower, and true character development. You're not just dealing with normal teenage or adult struggles. You're the first generation forced to develop identity and purpose while algorithms actively work to keep you distracted, anxious, and dependent. Previous generations face external enemies, wars, economic collapse, natural disasters. Your enemy is internal and invisible, designed to feel like friendship while slowly destroying your capacity for deep thought, genuine connection, and sustained effort. But despite these targeted attacks, you're also the generation that grew up watching heroes overcome impossible odds. If you're anything like me, you've seen Goku push beyond every limit, watch Luffy never give up on his dreams, witness Naruto transform from outcast to hero, and saw Ichigo embrace his power to protect others. You've seen characters like Guts survive the eclipse, watched Rock Lee and countless others prove that hard work beats talent, witness Zuko's transformation from villain to hero. What seemed like simple entertainment as kids can now serve to reignite that fire within you to rise above and overcome your own battles. The choice, slave or sovereign. Right now you're at a crossroads. Path 1 includes continuing down the dopamine highway toward digital slavery. In 5 years, you'll be exactly where tech companies want you. A predictable consumer, emotionally reactive, physically weak, mentally scattered. Path 2 includes choosing the warrior's path. It's harder, lonelier, and requires daily battles against your own impulses. But in 5 years, you'll be someone these ancient philosophers would recognize as their intellectual heir. Strong body, sharp mind, clear purpose, genuine relationships, and the self-respect that comes from overcoming your weakest impulses. The choice isn't really between social media and no social media. It's between being controlled and being free. Between reacting to life and creating it. Between following someone else's algorithm and writing your own code. Practical rebellion, your missions. So if you made it to this point in the video, you are serious about change. And thank you for watching to this point. I know it's been pretty long-winded, but hope you're able to get something out of it. Don't just watch this video and move on. I will put a link in the description to a Google Doc or some sort of sheet for you guys to see this challenge all typed up. A flashy challenge is definitely not needed. You can simply start living a new life right now if you choose to. But this challenge can give you the jumpstart you're looking for to build compounding habits and consistency. Starting with simpler, less invasive practices to implement into daily life and moving on to uprooting your entire identity. Change is possible. Phase 1, the awakening. Weeks 1 and 2. Daily practices. Sacred meals. Choose your longest meal daily. Eat without any devices. Morning pages. 10 minutes of handwritten thoughts before touching your phone. Twilight ritual. 15-minute walk outside plus no screens 1 hour before bed. Real food only. Eliminate fast food and delivery apps. Weekly goal. Notice your digital habits without judgment. You're gathering intelligence. Phase 2, the withdrawal. Weeks 3 and 4. Reclaiming stolen attention. Continue with the habits started in Phase 1, plus delete your beast. Remove your most addictive social media app. You know which one. Feed your mind. Replace 30 minutes of daily scrolling with intentional reading. Move your body. 20 minutes of physical activity daily. Walking can count. Phone fasting. Practice 3-hour blocks without your device. Hunger discipline. No snacking between meals. Weekly goal. Your brain will resist. Expect irritability and boredom. These are withdrawal symptoms. Phase 3. The discipline. Weeks 5 through 8. Building deep focus. Continue Phase 2 plus weekly digital Sabbath. 1 full day offline every week. Human connection. Limit social media to 1 hour daily, but add 30 minutes of real conversation with someone about ideas, not just current events. Knowledge building. 1 hour daily reading of substantial texts, philosophy, science, history. Keep notes. Physical training. Structured exercise 45 minutes daily. Weights, martial arts, cardio. Inner work. Begin 10 minutes daily meditation or contemplative practice. Kitchen mastery. Cook all meals from scratch using only whole ingredients. Weekly goal. You're building new neural pathways. Consistency matters more than perfection. Phase 4. The integration. Weeks 9 through 12. Becoming anti-fragile. Continue on with Phase 3 plus social media exile. Delete all remaining social platforms. Creative output. Write for 30 minutes daily. Journal, letters, or original thoughts to share. Extended meditation. 20 minutes daily contemplative practice. Athletic commitment. 1 hour daily physical training with progressive goals. Ancestral eating. No, not like Liver King. Only foods that come directly from earth or animals. No processed anything. Weekly goal. You're not just avoiding digital addiction, you're becoming someone who doesn't need it. Phase 5. The mastery. In digital monk mode. The full practice. Complete digital sovereignty. Use technology as a tool, not for entertainment. Daily creation. 1 hour writing, building, or making something meaningful. Physical excellence. 1.5 hours daily training, strength, endurance, flexibility. Contemplative mastery. 30 minutes daily meditation or prayer. Food independence. Grow, raise as much of your own food as possible. Weekly teaching. Share your knowledge with others through writing or conversation. Lifetime goal. You reverse the master-slave relationship with technology. So what to do when you fail, and you will, because it's pretty unrealistic to think that you'll be perfect right off the bat. The Stoic reset. 1. Evening reflection. Either journal or think to yourself questions like, what did I learn today? How can I improve tomorrow? Number 2. No self-hatred. Use failure as data, not identity. You failed, but you are not a failure. Number 3. Obstacles as the path. Use setbacks to strengthen your practice. Number 4. Restart immediately. Don't wait for Monday. Begin again right now. Between each phase, you should take 1 week to consolidate before adding new challenges. Take a moment to acclimate to your new lifestyle before trying to add more on top of what you're doing. And seasonal adjustments. Adapt food growing and outdoor activities depending on your climate. Finding your tribe. The ancient philosophers definitely did not work alone. They created schools, wrote letters, and built communities of practice. Modern digital detox requires the same social support. Here's a couple things that you could do to build community or find one near you that doesn't depend on social media. Number 1 is to find or create a local philosophy discussion group. Number 2, join hiking, martial arts, or any fitness community that values discipline. Number 3, start a book club focused on classical texts. It's a lot easier to read dense nonfiction books when you have a group of people doing the same thing. Talking through the ideas helps to understand a lot better. And number 4, use technology intentionally to connect with others pursuing similar goals. This can be a slippery slope, so if you feel the need to delete technology entirely, I'm all with you for that. Remember, the goal isn't to become a hermit, but to choose your influences consciously rather than letting algorithms choose for you. The current loneliness epidemic isn't happening to you. It's happening because of the choices you make every time you choose the screen over the world. The community of warriors. Which challenge are you most likely to complete? Drop your choice in the comments and commit publicly. Say exactly what you're going to do and when you're going to start. Then report back in 1 week with your progress. No excuses, no, I tried. No, it was harder than expected. Either you did it or you didn't. Can you keep a promise to yourself? Can you follow through when it gets difficult? There may be minor growing pains, but you'll be alright. And when you start living these principles, you become dangerous to the system that depends on your weakness. You start noticing how many people around you are unconsciously enslaved to their devices. You begin to see through marketing tactics, political manipulation, and social pressure. More importantly, you become an example. When your friends see you getting stronger, smarter, and more confident, while they are getting more anxious and scattered, they'll start asking questions. You become a beacon for others trapped in the digital maze. Do not become an egotist. Use your revelations to show those closest to you another way to live. The final truth: you are the last stand. Right now, you have everything you need at the tips of your fingertips. Ancient wisdom, modern science, and the examples of both fictional heroes and real warriors who faced impossible odds. The only question is whether you'll use these tools or let them gather dust while you scroll your life away. Start with one change or use the provided challenges to get started today. Not tomorrow, not the next day, not next month, not next year. Today. Choose the smallest action that moves you toward the person you want to become, then do it again tomorrow. Excellence isn't an act, but a habit, and habits are built one choice at a time. You will soon become unrecognizable even to yourself. The future belongs to those who can think deeply while others are distracted, focus intensely while others are scattered, and act decisively while others are paralyzed by options. These ancient warriors are calling you to join their ranks. Screw your comfort, answer the call.